Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 11 of the Hello Velocity podcast. We are nearing the end of season 1. We only have one more episode to go. But first, I wanted to finish up our self-sabotage series today by covering people pleasing. This is something that's super common for especially my clients who are women and women in leadership positions. This is something that seems to be rooted in a lot of our nature more naturally, that we love to please other people, we love to do things for other people. And more specifically, how I define people pleasing is someone who is consistently putting other people's wants and needs before their own, and especially at the expense of their own well-being. So it seems at the surface level, maybe in the moment, it seems like you're doing something good for someone else, but in the reality of it and behind the scenes, it's usually at your own expense. It's usually somehow hurting you, maybe not physically hurting you, but it's putting your own needs on the back burner. It's putting yourself on the back burner. It's deprioritizing yourself. So, very important for women. And honestly, this people-pleasing definition and everything about it goes against everything we've been talking about for all of season 1 of learning more about yourself, your wants and needs, taking care of yourself, your well-being, work-life balance. All of these things are things that will help you counteract people-pleasing. Today, we're going to dig into people-pleasing more, the different types that I see, the different motivations behind it, and then also some techniques that you can work on in addition to everything else we've been working on this season. There are a ton of reasons why it's so important to counteract your people-pleasing tendencies if this is something that you do. Because first of all, I've already mentioned it does tend to deprioritize your own wants and needs. But over time and to the extreme, which I've seen with a ton of women and even myself, sometimes you get to a point in your life where you don't even know what your wants and needs are because you spent so long going along with what other people want, prioritizing what they want, what their needs are, trying to make them feel comfortable, and always putting other people before yourself, that you kind of forget who you are and what you want and what you need, and you aren't even able to ask for it because you don't know what that is. And that's so, so important for you to be able to get to that point again where you can identify what your wants and needs are and be able to ask for them. Obviously, if you're always putting other people's wants and needs before your own, it's going to delay your own goals, it's going to delay your own development and slow you down from what it is that you really want, if you know what it is that you really want. And another piece I see a lot of times here with people pleasing is that when you open that door for people pleasing, people will then treat you how you let them treat you. So a lot of the times we're putting ourselves in this situation when it comes to people pleasing by opening the door for people and, doing nice things for them and putting their needs above our own. But people are obviously going to like that. They're going to enjoy it and they're going to start to expect that from you more consistently. So then it becomes a slippery slope of they may expect that all the time. They may ask more and more from you. And as a people pleaser, it is likely very hard for you to say no. So it becomes this snowball effect that the more you do it, the more other people may want you to do that. And it can be hard to turn off the faucet. So this is something to be really mindful of because a lot of times people pleasers then will complain about other people wanting all of this from them when really you need to take responsibility for this because you're allowing it to happen. So a lot of techniques for you today to help you, first of all, understand why you might be doing this, but then what you can do to change this behavior in the future. And a quick disclaimer here about people pleasing too is that obviously I'm not saying I don't want you to ever be nice or be thoughtful about other people, and I'm not saying I don't want you to never go out of your way to help a friend or a coworker or something like that. But I want you to be aware of, are you doing this all the time? Is this the norm? And are you never going out of your way for yourself? That's the real kicker here, is that obviously it's wonderful to help other people and to be thoughtful and think about other people. But when you're only ever doing that and you're not giving the same care to yourself and you're not being thoughtful to yourself, that's when we have a problem. So I want you to think about it as more of a balance that first we need to be caring for ourselves so that we can care for other people and be thoughtful for other people. Because similar to things we've talked about in the past, when you're constantly giving and caring and worrying about other people, then you're just pouring and pouring and pouring out of your own cup, and you're gonna have nothing left for yourself. So I want you to think about the airplane metaphor. You need to put your oxygen mask on yourself first before you can help other people. Okay, the first type of people pleasing that I see is people pleasing because you want people to like you. This is the most obvious, the most common, and probably what you typically think about when you hear people pleasing. And it is pretty self-explanatory, but most of the time this looks like you are going along with what other people want. You are maybe overly agreeable to the people around you. Maybe you're even putting on this face of, okay, everything is great. I don't want to show my own emotions, my own needs. I want it to be all about the other person so that they will like me and that I seem super agreeable and that I seem very similar to them, maybe to make it easier for them to like me. Some common examples I see here is in the workplace. Maybe you tend to imitate your boss when you're in meetings as a form of, again, wanting them to like you, wanting them to see you as agreeable, and obviously be in their good graces. On the personal side, I see this a lot when you're dating someone new and you pretend to like all the same things that they do in hopes that they will like you more. And it's pretty obvious when I put it that simply that that's not a great idea, because you then are hurting yourself in the long run because you are distancing yourself from these people, right? You're not being your true, genuine self. You are putting on a show, you're putting on a face for them in hopes for them to like you, but really they're not liking you. They're liking a performance you're putting on, right? So we want to work through this type of people pleasing so that you can connect more genuinely with other people and so that other people can like you for you, because you are amazing and wonderful and they would be happy and lucky to have you in their life. Some of the motivations behind this one is that typically you're seeking some sort of external validation. It could be a lack of confidence in yourself, and maybe you don't like yourself that much, and that's why you want other people to like you to maybe fill that emotional gap that you have. Or just genuinely, a lot of people just don't want other people to think poorly of them. Completely understandable. So this is where that delicate balance comes in of we want to be genuinely nice to other people, right? But we don't want to do it at our own expense. So there are times you're going to have to be direct. You're going to have to say no. You need to put yourself first, and people might not like that, and that's okay. We need to get more comfortable with the uncomfortable in service of ourselves. And honestly, there are plenty of times and situations where the other person doesn't deserve your niceness or your kindness, right? There's plenty of situations I'm sure we can all think of where someone was rude to you, where someone put you in a terrible situation. You don't owe them anything, right? You don't owe being nice to them. You owe caring for yourself, protecting yourself, and asking for what you need. So if you're in this boat of people pleasing because you want other people to like you, obviously first dig into that to understand better where that motivation is coming from. And one technique that I think is super helpful, something that stayed with me for a long time when I first heard it, is remind yourself that what other people think of you is none of your business, right? That's just one of those kind of mind-blowing sayings. So I'm going to say it again. What other people think of you is none of your business, right? We are not mind readers. We are not fortune tellers. It honestly doesn't matter what other people think of us for the most part, right? We just need to put our full selves out there, and we may not be for everyone, and that's okay. The right people are going to connect with us, and we're going to repel the people who are not for us, and that's okay. And from a professional perspective, you need to find that balance of how you can be true to yourself while still leaving a generally good professional impression. Obviously, we don't want to be pissing everyone off that we work with. You need to find that balance of what it is that you stand for at work. What are your personal values? What are your professional values? But also, what are your goals? What are your roles, responsibilities? Having those as almost like your guiding light in making decisions and interacting with other people so that you know what you need to say no to, and it can be easier, it can be less emotional, and it's less about a person not liking you and saying, no, I can't do this, I can't stay late to work again, I can't take on this new project because of my other priorities, because of these other projects that I'm working on, and start practicing things like that. Another type of people pleasing I see is the people pleasing as a way to keep the peace. These are the people who are avoiding confrontation at all costs. They are constantly trying to keep the peace among other people, or sometimes just in meetings when they see things are escalating. They're the ones that are jumping in and trying to anticipate other people's feelings and trying to jump in hopes of helping other people navigate a situation. And a lot of times these people too are always going with the flow of what other people want and never interjecting with a disagreement or with a different idea or again saying no to someone. It's more just keeping the flow going of what other people want and never giving their new ideas themselves. So obviously this could be holding you back because you're not putting your own opinion, your own ideas into the situation. You're usually just deflecting what's going on around you or going along with what other people want, or maybe the people who are in charge of the meeting, of the situation, or the people who are maybe even just loudest. Maybe you just don't want to contradict what someone else is saying. You're also making a lot of assumptions of what other people are thinking and feeling when you're in this boat. And that in itself, again, is super exhausting. It's a lot of mental and emotional work on your end that you're taking on to try to anticipate the needs of everyone else before they're even explicitly said. I call this the mental gymnastics when you're trying to read other people's minds, especially in a meeting, and you're trying to anticipate what they're about to say or what they're about to do. And then you try to jump in to maybe save another coworker from getting yelled at by someone else, or you're trying to diffuse a situation before it even happens. This is just putting up a wall between you and other people because you're not able to be your genuine self. You are just in this heightened stage of conflict avoidance instead of being able to handle potential conflict. So some motivations of why you might be doing this is just maybe you've always been the peacekeeper in your personal life, or you grew up that way, and now it's just become this habit that you bring into the workplace setting. Or you honestly just hate confrontation. You hate difficult situations, difficult conversations, but when you're avoiding them, then you may become a crutch for other people. And when you're helping them this much, it gets very complicated quickly. So what I want you to work on if you're in this boat is I want you to start trusting yourself in uncomfortable situations. I want you to start practicing being more comfortable with the uncomfortable. Trust yourself when there is conflict that you will be able to handle it. Trust yourself that silence is okay in different situations in these meetings when it feels a little uncomfortable. Maybe don't be the one to jump in and try to navigate everything. Just maybe sit back and see what other people can bring to the room. And you don't always have to put all of this on your shoulders. And start to trust other people in these situations and trust them to be able to handle their emotions as well. So you don't always have to be the one to try to protect them and protect their emotions. And again, yes, we want to continue to be supportive of other people, but not to your own detriment, not at the expense of your well-being, and not to the expense of you not being able to show up as yourself because you're so protective of everyone else. You need to be able to start to trust them to be able to handle these situations as well. And yes, you can help them navigate them, but don't put all of this on your shoulders entirely. Start to share the load with everyone else in the meeting, in the situation, and start to have different conversations instead of how it's always been. Okay, now our third style of people pleasing I see is people pleasing as a way to make other people feel good or comfortable. And again, this is at the expense of your own comfort. And this one is kind of a combination of the last two, where you are trying to think about and anticipate other people's needs and wants, and that you are then also trying to make them like you. So it's kind of this mental gymnastics to a new level where you are completely putting your own needs on the back burner in service of just trying to make them comfortable. And honestly, sometimes you might be doing it so well and almost like ninja mental gymnastics that the other person may not even know all the work that you're going through to anticipate their needs and to make life or work better for them. It's sort of this secretive mode you go in sometimes where you're trying to handle a lot of things behind the scenes in order to make their life better or their work easier or just make them better off. And a lot of times I see this too with people who are maybe above them in the work food chain, or they see them as a more powerful authority figure. So it's almost your discreet way of sucking up to them potentially in a less overt way. More personally, an example I've noticed even for myself is that I used to be so cognizant of all the drivers around me and especially behind me when I was driving somewhere. And I was always trying to make their lives better and easier as a driver instead of putting my own needs and honestly safety first. So if I got to a red light and was turning right, I would always try to rush through it if there was someone behind me because I wanted them to then be able to get through the light. When really, I would much rather be very safe and cautious and take my time fully stopping, looking multiple times, and then going. But for some reason, I was putting these strangers' needs before my own. And yes, traffic in Charlotte is crazy and people are aggressive, but that does not warrant what I was doing. So, this version of people pleasing, you might be doing it because you genuinely want other people to be happy, to be in a good space, and you want everything to be happy and positive all the time, right? But it's usually a detriment to yourself when you are pretending like everything is fine and don't ever have any negative emotions. That's just not realistic. That's not being human. It also could be that maybe you have a lot of empathy, so you really feel for other people when they're struggling with something, or you do want to make their lives easier because you really feel genuine care for other people. And again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That is a wonderful thing. You just need to be mindful of when you're doing it at your own expense and when it's hurting you or holding you back. So some techniques to help you with this style of people pleasing is simply check in with yourself before you're doing something for someone else. Ask yourself, what am I doing this for? And will this hurt me or help me? And start to maybe even tally these up over time of, are you doing so many more things that will hurt you versus help you? And that's a great indicator of you needing to start to pull back, start saying no to some of these situations as well, which leads us into our second technique, which is getting more boundaries for yourself. Whether that's personally, professionally, probably a combination of both. What are those boundaries of maybe your work hours or not responding to emails at a certain time or on the weekends, or how you're protecting your sleep time, your downtime, or your self-care time? All of these things will help you take care of yourself first. And again, the more you take care of yourself, the more you can help other people with intention, with awareness. All right, to wrap up today, our 3 styles of people pleasing include, first of all, people pleasing as a form of simply wanting more people to like you. If this is you, some things to consider is, first of all, remind yourself what other people think about you is none of your business. And second of all, find that balance in a professional setting of staying true to yourself and what you need while also leaving a good impression. Second is people pleasing because you want to keep the peace. Here, I simply want you to start trusting yourself more during conflict, during uncomfortable situations. So, getting more comfortable with the uncomfortable and especially with silence. And secondly, to trusting other people more in these situations so that there's less mental, emotional burden on your own shoulders. And lastly is people pleasing because you simply want other people to be better off, or you want them to be comfortable at your own expense. So what I want you to do here is check in with yourself before you're committing to something new for someone else and ask yourself, is this helping or hurting me? And consider what boundaries you need in order to be able to say no, or to be able to fill your own cup more consistently and take care of yourself first and foremost. All right, that is it for today's episode. We have one more episode for season 1 of the Hello Velocity podcast, where we'll do a high-level season overview and also how to hold you accountable between seasons. See you in the next episode.